That's odd. Recorded May 12th, 2025. Good afternoon, Edward. Good afternoon, Edward.
Yeah, I don't know what just happened. Hold on.
Well, good afternoon, Rick.
So are you guys having intermittent audio issues? Because I am too. That's why I just rebooted my laptop.
We're fine now. Rod has a camera issue. He's bouncing between the multitude of cameras that he has. But how you doing, Rick?
Doing well.
There you go. There we go. Sorry about that. While the show was starting up, my camera, you know how it follows me everywhere I go. I got something out of the closet while the show was starting up, and I guess I forgot about that, and it followed me into the closet. Oh my goodness! And then it stuck there because it couldn't pick me up again.
So you notice how my camera follows me too? There you go.
Does it?
Yeah, see if I put my hand.
My camera seems to follow you for whatever reason. I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, that will be strange if all of a sudden in your screen you can see the back of my head. I'm like, where did he put a camera in my house? What's going on with that?
I'm gonna have to work on that. Oh, wait.
Oh, look at that. Man, look what the cat drug in. It must have been a mighty big cat. Franklin, what's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Oh my goodness. It's I feel like it's we went back in the past. It's like 2 years ago.
We did. We got a hot tub time machine, baby. We went back in the past. Yeah. Franklin, it's good to see you, sir.
Good seeing you. I figured I'd come on the show since you never return my calls.
Yeah, that's the only way I can get hold of you too. So
I return your calls, Franklin. We were playing phone tag. So to our listeners who have not yet joined the live stream, we have the honor and all the other accolades of having the pleasure of having Franklin Grimberg on the call, the co-creator of this podcast and a good friend of mine. Franklin.
I was going to come on next month, but I don't think I'm allowed to, right?
You can come on anytime you want.
Isn't that like MVP month or something like that?
Wow.
What is next month?
Yeah. It is. Franklin, I think this may be your year. I think you may get over that hump.
Really?
Well, you may not realize, but my new role at Microsoft is very closely aligned with the MVP program.
And then, Rod, you took
sending a lot of gifts.
Yeah.
Well, we'll put some. Matter of fact, the truth be told, Franklin, every time we see your application come for the MVP thing, we put an X by it. It's just bad mouth. Like, no. It's sort of like who's the lady on the soap opera who never won an Emmy? Every time we think we hear, no, not this year. Let's do it again.
It's becoming an internal joke.
There's an internal joke.
Yeah. All right, 5 times nominated next year, 6 times nominated, never accepted, 7 times nominated, never accepted. I get it.
When we get the number of the person who's applied the most and not got it, then once you break it, we'll go ahead and let you in. We'll go ahead. It's good to see you, sir. Long time no see.
Great seeing you guys.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So Franklin and I started a podcast almost 3 years ago. He's been a friend of the show.
3 years ago. We actually started in December of 2019.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Our first probably aired episode was like March of 2020.
And we took a year thinking about it, and then we finally did it. It was just you and I, and we didn't know what we were doing and talking over each other. And then Franklin left the show because, he called in rich. And rich people call in and say, I'm not coming to work today for Edward. It's yours. Right. It's mine. I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. Franklin never meets with me. At least I don't return your phone calls. I'll give you that. At least when I fly to DC to see you and you have me waiting for you for dinner, you never show up. You don't come to lunch. You don't do anything. So, that's true. All right, but also always a friend. Good to see you again, sir. It's all right. And because I was going to tell your dad on you. You know I'm your dad's favorite. I'll tell on you.
That's true. Whenever I have a family dispute about anything, we always call Edward to actually figure out, to give us the final answer about what we should be doing. So, we always get in, like, if you pick up a bread and it says, a loaf of bread and it says sell by, do you eat the bread after the sell by date? Or do you throw it away?
Those are the type of mind-blowing arguments I have to diffuse when I get those phone calls. You'd be amazed. So, Franklin, welcome to the show. This is partner month. I think we sort of befuddled everybody because we pushed it back a month rather than April. We went to May. And we have Rick Fozolz on the show, and he is a security Copilot expert. I think he invented it. I'm not sure. But whatever. So let's go ahead and get started. Franklin, what's been going on in the world of security?
I'm just here to learn. So, that's basically it. I haven't been doing much. No, actually, I've been doing a lot of SC200 training, and that's been a great deal of fun to go out there and work with people and see them excited about the product and the direction of the product. So that's primarily what I've been doing. But I'm here to listen and learn about the partners and Security Copilot and everything else.
Yeah, and when Franklin says SC200 training, he's not taking a training, he's delivering a training. That is one of his superpowers. So if you're taking a Microsoft security exam and you've had less than glamorous results in the past, it's because this guy makes the testing. That's who's doing all the writing of the hard exams. So all right, well, let's get into the show. We're in partner month. I believe this is our second run at it. And Rick, any security rundowns from you, sir?
I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I did get to watch a demo earlier from one of our other partners about a capability, a plugin called Copilot, so a CrowdStrike extension for Security Copilot. I saw that today. That was nice to have.
Yeah, I saw it last week. They came on and did a presentation for my team. We got to see it in action and a couple other things. And I saw your readout of it, and there was a couple other side notes about the particular way it's deployed, the way it interacts, and a few other things. Not just of the show, but interesting. Joe, that's over at SRA Security.
And Mike Pinch, who's our MVP that wrote that thing.
Yep.
So they were on and talking about it. So they've been on the show before. I don't think they're on this year. So, but anyway, shout outs to SRA for getting in front of this thing and writing some to extend the capability of Security Copilot as it continues to evolve. You break anything interesting, Rick?
No, nothing really.
I'll get to see you here in a couple of days. You and I are co-presenting a Capture the Flag event as well as the Security Copilot flight school is what it's called. I guess it's a lab or why do we keep calling it labs? It got to be something else. It's flight school, but I don't know what to do it. So it'll be my first time meeting you in person, so it'll be good to catch up. I think are you coming in Wednesday or are you coming in Thursday?
Wednesday evening. Yeah, I'll be there in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then hanging out for the 2 days with you. And I've got family that's up in that area, so I'm be flying back on Sunday.
Okay. All right. Cool. Rod, how you feeling, man? You've been on the road.
I have been on a road. It's actually been a good time though, because for most everyone that remembers, I was in Vegas last week at the MGM. By the way, I have something to hear. I'll show you in a second. Speaking of agents, we are so early days with our agents, and Rick, I think you'll appreciate this. I worked like the last month or so to try to at least get something that I could demo the audience in Vegas last week for agents, and was unable to do so. So we just literally had to talk about them instead of showcase them, because I could have used our if you go to our adoption.microsoft.com, I think /security/agents or something, you can actually see videos of demos of our agents, but that's essentially what we have to show in public at the moment. Those are coming, so I was a little disappointed in that, but we still had a good time, still talked about Security Copilot, still got a lot of interest. This event that I was at was the Microsoft 365 Community Conference, so it's really super focused on things like SharePoint, but we did have some security sessions, and I was able to talk about Security Copilot. Got a lot of interest in that. Since it's SharePoint, was able to talk a lot about Microsoft Purview, because that's what those folks are really super interested in. We had a kiosk. Noodle, who is in the audience today, he's over there waving and talking about his jet lag. Him and I actually shared a expert table last week. We had one visitor, which was kind of what I was getting to. It was an M365 conference. Security, which I think, because I'm a security person, should be top of mind for literally everything that you do, we had probably the less trafficked kiosk and areas at this event. Security did, right? So I thought that was a little disappointing, but we were able to at least, what's in the bag, pass out our new private community flyers. There's a QR code. Let's see, QR code. If anybody's watching, they can scan that, go join the community. There's all kinds of cool stuff on this. But we're passing those out at conferences. I think we'll definitely be at Build. If anybody's in Build and want to grab one of those, Edward's got his Copilot for security wings. But it was a good time, good event. I think everyone had a good time. It was at the MGM. I miss the days when you went to Vegas and got cheap food.
Yes.
None of it is cheap anymore. It's all, my wife and I, we ate breakfast for like $80. So it was all good. Super great.
Yep. Okay. Well, yeah, glad you're back, man. I know you've been traveling, the new role and all these other things. Quick readout so we can go ahead and get our guest on. In the spirit of Franklin, I have something from a Mr. Eric Manning. He's over at Blue Orient, and he's one of the most brilliant incident responders as well as investigators and threat hunter. He has a tool that he's updated. It's actually really, really good. I'm putting his Git in the chat. It is called the MDE Automator. It really lowers the bar on deploying MDE at scale, including, giving references to additional components like attack surface reduction, configuration parameters, and things along that line, as well as troubleshooting. I hadn't used it in a while. I'm not really touching the endpoints anymore. I'm scarred from taking the forensics 508 exam from SANS. I'll never get over that. I'm actually triggered right now. So we'll see how that turns out. But excellent. If our users are not following, I think he names himself MS Dirtbag, Microsoft Dirtbag on Git and all those things. But if you want to follow somebody on LinkedIn, that's all endpoint, all about endpoint, and things very broad-minded about it. He's a great person to follow. One other thing that I found interesting that came from a previous guest on the show, Shama Yah, he put a link in here for colleges that want to do something called introducing the Microsoft Student SOC Initiative. This is a series of or an initiative where universities are given a blueprint and a guideline to setting up a training SOC within their school. They can actually be functional, even if that school has an operational SOC. Obviously, it's going to be geared toward Microsoft technologies, but it was interesting when they give you the entire readout on how to set this up. And some of the testimonials, one of the biggest ones was Auburn University, and this public knowledge set this up. And they're starting to get individuals, in addition to their regular curriculum that they're matriculating in, now say, hey, it seems like science, not science, magic to get into this SOC analyst job. Let me put it in the chat in the long link. And I think the link.
Wow, that's a big one. Yeah, I see it there.
Yeah, it's a long post there, and I don't think I can just put the link in here without it. There you go. Give it a look at. So it's a Microsoft sponsored thing. You come in, you work with they give you the learning plan, the LMK. I figure, Frank, you like this, and you can download into your learning plan, whether you're using Microsoft Viva, what else you may be using to learn. It walks you through the basics, the one-on-ones of being a SOC analyst, and then the individual tool sets. So that was pretty cool. Another person I follow who has a good repository of all the cybersecurity resources around all the MDE products is a guy named Steve Turner. He puts everything in a nice format where you can go find. I put the link in there. And the last thing I read was, and this is sort of old, I'll read it off screen here, from Kebs on security. And frankly, I think I don't know if you're a fan of Kebs or not. You know him, right? Brian Kebs, yeah, you know him. An employee at Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company, XAI, leaked a private key on GitHub that for the past 2 months could have allowed anyone to query private large language models, which appear to have been custom made for working with internal data systems in Musk companies, including SpaceX, Tesla and Twitter X, Keb's on security has learned. Now, this is about 2 weeks old because I got it last week and meant to deploy. I thought it was interesting. I think I met him one time, Brian, and there it is right there. Once again, a super long post. There it is. TLDR. There you go. But check it out.
We'll put those in the show notes.
You put it in show notes.
Yep.
Come on, people. You still putting secrets in your Git? How many scanning tools?
I mean,
golly.
Based on what I've seen for Doge, not to give you political or anything, but like the security is an afterthought with a lot of things that are going on right now from Elon and his companies. I like the guy, but I don't think he takes security very seriously.
It doesn't. It does not. And I don't think he understands the actual landscape that he has for people who would like to not see good things happen for him and his company. But be careful, Elon. You just don't do that. Right, because you whether you know it or not, you own one of the top automotive companies out there. It'd be bad if Ed was to get access to your assembly line information, right? Instead of having a 2-second wheel across your frame, I make it a half-second wheel. Now you have to recall all your cars. How about that? Let's not do that. Not that I would. I use my powers for good these days. So there we go.
So one of the things that people might not realize is there was a change to Defender for Cloud. So they now have two cloud security posture management plans. There used to only be one, which was the free one. The second one actually will do secret scanning. So you don't have to pay for one of the higher priced plans to get secret scanning on your resources. So the other one is like $5 a month for the resources. So take a look at the two different plans out there. I was actually surprised to see that they actually have secret scanning in there. So for that level versus forcing you to get one of that more higher end Defender for whatever service.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. One of the things I'm going to present on this week is the actual DFC pricing options around difference between P1 P2. We're going to talk a little bit about CNAP and CSPM, but you're right, they're two different ones. I sort of became aware of it about 3 weeks ago, actually looking at the material. So I was surprised also that they do it that way. On that note, with the GA release of Defender for AI, that is now out, which is interesting. A little bit limited, as always, when we release these things, they are. And also a lot of interest around Defender for APIs is starting to come up now, right? But still a little bit limited. You look at Microsoft's, limitations. I guess you can apply it to an API gateway of such and be able to look at activities. So learn a lot about that because guess what, Franklin? I am taking the SANS Security 541 course right now. So I'm almost done with that. Much easier than a 508. Oh, man, you owe me money for that. So, hey, without further ado, let's go ahead and get our guest in. Rob, you want to bring your guest in?
I will. Let's see. Let's move Mike to the top of the screen. Mike, good day. How are you?
Good evening, everybody.
Mike is you're actually an old guest on the show. You've been here, I don't know, a few times probably. But
my third visit, I believe.
It's like SNL. How many times have you hosted SNL? I think eventually you get like an award or something potentially.
You do. Yeah.
But welcome back. And it's interesting to me that you're here when we're talking about, number one, partner month, but number two, something that super brand new and something that Microsoft is super now invested in when it comes to security and security Copilot. I was just mentioning to Mike off camera before we started the show how I was at that conference last week, and it's really easy for me to talk about security Copilot or whatever the next thing is and mention Tanium because you see in people's eyes, there's that recognition. They immediately know who Tanium is. And so it's a really great example when I talk about security Copilot, particularly for the plugins, which we've talked about before. But this time, this month, this partner month, we're talking about the agents, which I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. Even I'm having a hard time getting my hands on. So it'll be awesome to actually see what you guys have tonight.
Great. Well, glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, recently on LinkedIn, I saw.
You can go ahead and reintroduce yourself if you want for those that have.
Oh yeah,
this is
sure.
shot.
Yeah, so I'm Mike Fiorina. I'm the field CIO for our Microsoft partnership here at Tanium. So I'm kind of the field technical lead for the integrations that we've developed with Microsoft products. And I have my hands in kind of product management and marketing and sales, a little bit of everything, but do a lot of customer facing stuff, get to talk on shows like this, go around the world presenting and talking up Tanium and Microsoft and all the goodness that we've got cooking.
Yeah, Tanium is a veritable company. It's been around. Like I think I said before the show, it's a homegrown term in the house, right? Tanium. Cool name too. That's right. So with this whole plethora of seems like the second wave of the new shiny is, security Copilot and the gazillion other Copilots that Microsoft has, as well as, Copilot is not a trademark term within Microsoft. Other products have Copilots. But now you're starting to look at this, I won't call it the next generation, but the next landscape of agentic AI, and Microsoft is introducing their series of that, but as being one of the front runners, in the Microsoft ecosystem around Microsoft technologies, Tanium has released their agent that works. So can you tell us about that, Mike? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so just by way of background, so we were one of the original Security Copilot, then Copilot for Security partners who released our integration on day one, April 1st of 2024. And then back in the winter time frame, the Security Copilot team, who we still work very closely with, reached out and said, hey, we got some stuff going with AI agents, and we'd love you guys to see what you can build to show off. And so we've got the band back together with some new players as well. And in pretty short order, we put something together that was first shown off at the Microsoft Secure virtual event a few weeks ago by Dorothy Lee. And then we're going to be entering a preview phase here pretty shortly. So we're excited about the possibilities. I think we're still just getting started on what we want to do with this. But the stuff that we wanted to build right out of the gate, which made a lot of sense to us, was addressing a lot of the stuff that security practitioners struggle with on a daily basis, which is just the sheer volume of activity that's out there. The idea of, all right, I've got 100 alerts in my queue here that I'm looking at in my SIM or my EDR solution. How do I, get to the bottom of this, triage this quickly and effectively so that I can work my way through this queue without getting alert fatigue and, letting things fall through the cracks and, knowing what appears to be a false positive versus what's something I really need to investigate, and just helping customers work their way through that to amplify the power of their people. I saw on LinkedIn recently, Facebook-like post, but still pretty pertinent to the conversation, was like top CISO concerns of Q2 2025. And number one was AI is both the solution and the threat. So I think we're all, coming to grips with that whole concept that, the bad guys are using AI to further their endeavors, and the defenders are trying to figure out how we can do this, use AI in a secure, responsible way to help defray the potential impacts of those kinds of things, and just really improve outcomes, save customers time and money, and make them more secure. So that was kind of the overarching goal of what we want to be able to do here, in conjunction with everything that Security Copilot's doing and all the other work that the partners community is also contributing to it.
Well, it's interesting when you say responsible. That's the thing that I kind of have to noodle on myself, because the threat actors are not acting responsible, but so for whatever reason, we kind of have to, right? It has to be run through that responsible filter. It almost seems like at some point, you need somebody on our side that's just as unresponsible to stop those unresponsible people. I don't know. Probably. We'll figure that out eventually, I guess. But Rick, did you?
I was gonna say you do. I'm surprised I haven't been flagged for all the crazy things I throw at Security Copilot. Like I'm constantly pushing the limits just to see what it can and can't do. I haven't worked with Mike or any of the folks at Tanium, but I've seen the plugin multiple times, and I haven't seen the agents yet, so I'm excited to hear and see what that's about.
It's awesome. So is it one agent, Mike, or are you working on a multitude of these things, or?
Today it's one, just to get everything off the ground, get customer feedback. But I think we foresee a future where there's definitely more than one that we're going to be contributing here.
Do you think it's? We were talking about Copilot. We've been talking about this all along since the introduction of these Copilots. that it's particularly Security Copilot, that it's supposed to help with efficiency, right? And I think, is that where agents are going as well, trying to improve even efficiency even more, or is there something else to it?
Well, I think that's part of it, but the rest of it is just kind of being able to kind of operate intelligently. And the original Security Copilot in our plugin was driven on the idea that I have a particular prompt that I want to ask in order to get information, to get guidance, and then ideally put together prompt books that will allow you to do things on a recurring kind of more automated basis. And agents is taking things a step further, where there are orchestrators and sub-agents doing things that are kind of trying to intelligently move through and iterate on just what it's able to see and learn from all of the data that it has access to.
So Michael, we're hearing about agents, and I think as the Copilot landscape matures, regardless whose Copilot you use, now we're looking at agents. Give me, let's just take it down to a little bit of a basic, right? How about a quick 30 to 45 seconds? What's an agent?
It's kind of automation from within the realm of AI. So it's kind of working through, and as opposed to just taking a single prompt, what our first experience was, to gather information, provide insights. It's going through and saying, like, okay, based on what I'm getting about, might be a larger volume of data than just like actually asking a particular question, issuing a prompt. And it's taking that data and it's doing something with it. And it may be doing some more investigation independently on its own. That's kind of what we're exploring, is the ability to be able to say, all right, we have a whole lot of data we can throw at this model, and what can it do with it? And, what can it do with it proactively? How can it go and get more information based on what it's already finding? So I think just introducing kind of the next level of evolution with respect to what AI can do, as opposed to just kind of, all right, a chat-based interface. I'm asking a question, I'm getting a response back, and which is a lot of utility to that, but then what? At that point, it becomes much more driven by the model to be able to say, all right, this is the data that I'm throwing at you. What should I do about this? And it can be, it's cross market, cross vertical. I mean, it's not going to be specific to security. This is going to be taking over a lot of different things that we do, and it could be more common to the idea of customer service agents and those types of models, where we always have been dealing with that for a while now, but having a much more AI-driven experience rather than just kind of stepping through kind of call trees that have been converted to web interfaces, things like that. So that it's smarter and gives you a lot more ability to drill down into specifics and get insights.
So it sounds like.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking that something you mentioned early on is and I've always thought about this. One, as you know, one of the limitations that we've had with Security Copilot, you have to be part of that entire discussion. But when you issue that first prompt, it's single plugin, and you kind of have to wait for that. Then you have to go use another plugin. It's kind of a manual. So I'm guessing this is where agents come in. This actually ties together kind of that multi-plugin scenario for us, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the power of prompt books, not just in automation, but was also in the ability to get data from multiple sources in order to eventually come to some conclusions. And with the agent interface, it's the same idea, but it kind of, again, taking another step forward in that direction, where I can be getting data from multiple sources, correlating that data intelligently, and having the model itself, the LLM, come kind of reach those conclusions, as opposed to just returning information to the user. So I think there's just a lot of power in how this can amplify people's ability to see and respond to things in the cybersecurity arena.
So it sounds like an agent is a collection of prompts, prompt books, skills, etc., given a persona, being able to go out and do his thing.
Yeah, I would add to that.
Copilot did that.
I would add to that like the LLM that's running the agent has the ability to assimilate things. Like if I were to program a decision tree with like sodas, and I said this is Coke and Pepsi, and I didn't call Dr. Pepper a variable, an agent would be able to tell that is also a soda.
Yeah.
So it has that ability to infer similarities and make decisions, where it's a lot more coding if you were to do that manually, and also to Mike's point, it doesn't learn, it doesn't have that ability to grow. So agents do.
Yeah, it's something similar. Someone was explaining to me around self-driving cars that self-driving cars don't know what a stop sign is, but it knows enough about the other signs to see the
Yeah.
behavior that someone does to that sign. And when you see this 8-sided sign, I don't know it's a stop sign, but I know this sign elicits cars to stop behavior, right? So that sign could be purple, green, it could have go on it. But think about how our mind is programmed. You come up to a stop sign that you're used to seeing red and white and it has the word go. You're not going to go. You're going to stop and read it. So I get it.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really do it. And so, Mike, with this agent, we talked about what an agent is, talked about how Tanium is being in the front runner. I think you named one of the first 5 partners to have an agent that works with Security Copilot. So what does your agent do?
Well, I think probably the best way to talk through that is to actually show it. So if everybody's on board with that idea, I will
Proof is in the pudding.
pull up my screen and show you what it does.
You made me
All
hungry.
right. Mhm.
I need the Jeopardy tune. Rick? Sing it all together. Here it comes.
All right, trivia question. Before
Yeah.
we get into it, where did the Jeopardy theme come from? It was a lullaby. It was a lullaby written by a guy for his daughter, and they licensed it to use it on Jeopardy. It was original lullaby.
I was gonna say Benny Hill, but okay.
No, not Benny Hill. Benny Hill is not for children. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No worries. All right. So this is just a screenshot of what was shown at Microsoft Secure. So we were one of those first 5 partners that had something to show off during that virtual event. And Dorothy Lee walked through what that actually looked like. I won't play this particular demo right now, but it's available for folks who want to go back and take a look at it. And the idea being that in our world with Tanium, so what we are, and of course my thing
Always.
timed out here, true to form.
That's on my every day I do that. I got like 4 different tenants I'm in, and inevitably one of them asks me to log in when I'm on a demo.
Yep.
I was at that conference last week. I hadn't used my travel laptop for a while, and as soon as Edge browser updated, all of my logins were gone. All of that, even for my demos. Yeah. But
I can tell you how to recover them.
It's good security.
Okay, here we come. So Tanium does a lot of different things. So we have a lot of operational capabilities, risk-oriented scenarios and use cases, and also just for our more traditional security. And so one of the capabilities we've had for a long time is contained within one of our modules. So these are kind of these self-contained capabilities we deliver to customers that they can use all of this. They can use a subset of this. With respect to our agent, this was focused on our threat response functionality, which is akin to EDR. It's not the same as EDR. It's kind of generally the way we characterize it are that if you're a really mature SOC environment, really secure, really high level kind of security practitioners in your environment, your EDR is going to be your first line of defense. And something like Defender is going to provide you with tons of amazing capabilities. And if you want something kind of that's gives you really finely grained capability to query, interact with your environment in real time, to incorporate the ingestion of third-party intelligence, IOCs, you want to do IRIS scans, you want to have flexible forensic package gathering capabilities, and kind of the world is your oyster with respect to kind of how you hunt and respond, then this is a cool capability for those types of shops. It's not for everybody, but it's a really powerful capability for the people that can get their arms around it and use it. And so one of these capabilities is going to look very similar to what you'd have with your traditional EDR solution, which you're sending to your SIM, your alerts, and that kind of thing. And, in any environment, you're going to be dealing with hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of alerts on a given day. And, your EDR is going to be ideally helping you to determine and do that initial triage to say, like, we think this is a critical thing that you need to, have all eyes on right now, or this is something that's, a little bit more lower in the importance scale. But there's still a lot of work associated with triaging every single alert. It can potentially take an hour or two just to look at a given alert, all the different artifacts associated with that event, and figuring out, like, is this something that I need to worry about and respond to right now, or is this, can I put this on the back burner? And so the idea we had here with our first initial agent release with Security Copilot was, hey, it'd be nice if I could take all of this data that I'm capturing about my events, and for security practitioners, this is going to be familiar information about processes, the path, the command line, the hashes associated with everything, user IDs and credentials being associated with it, et cetera. And there's just a lot of data that could potentially be associated with any given incident that you see in your world as a SOC analyst. What if we could take all that data, and instead of taking an hour to kind of pour through it and figure out what might be going on, reduce that time down to a couple of minutes to be able to say, like, hey, if I could feed this to an AI agent and say, could you take a look at this alert for me and go through it and tell me exactly what's going on, saving me a whole lot of time and money and allowing me to ensure that I'm able to pay attention to the things that are most critical so that nothing falls through the cracks and potentially impacts my environment and my business or organization, then that's something that we should pursue. So that's the idea behind kind of the problem that we're trying to solve here initially, and the capability that Tanium has. So again, it's going to traditionally supplement your EDR. You can write your own threat detections to your heart's content. You can import external intelligence. And so building this sort of thing in here gives customers the ability to have a lot of control over kind of what they see, what they detect, how quickly it's detected, and how quickly we can respond to it. Any questions from the group so far?
No, it's a smart idea.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen this dashboard a gazillion times, it seems like right now. And it's amazing how you guys keep it clean with all the stuff you got into it. It stays clean.
Yeah, and this is all data that we could send up to Sentinel and have it operate on it from there, and we can stream all of our telemetry to Sentinel directly from the endpoints themselves. So a lot of different touch points on Microsoft security technology. So we see this really complementing what you guys are able to deliver for customers as being really comprehensive. And so rather than doing a full live demonstration, there's a lot of different things changing in the Security Copilot platform and the AI agents as we ramp up towards general availability, and the same thing is being done with our agent. I'm going to kind of walk through a safe session here just so you can see what happened. Within that threat response interface, every individual alert has their own GUID associated with it. And so I can just walk up to my Security Copilot interface and ask a question. And in this instance, that question is, hey, using Tanium, can you investigate this alert for me? And because we've enabled this with our AI agent plugin, it goes out, it does all the things that it needs to do, says, yep, I'm going to use my Tanium plugin, I'm going to take a look at all the data there, and I'm going to spit out a response that's going to help you get to the bottom of it really quickly. And so we are building in logic that helps customers understand whether this is a true positive, what the level of confidence is with kind of making that distinction or making that determination, and providing a summary of the alert, and then walking through all the different stuff that we or the agent itself investigated. And I think it's interesting. There's also, I'm not sure if this is going to be a publicly available interface, but as we built through this process of creating the plugin for the AI agent, there's an AI agent view that kind of helps you architecturally see what's going on as we walk through the different steps of the agent. And so there's a lot of stuff that's happening on the Security Copilot side of the equation with respect to the skills querying and matching and all that sort of thing. But starting from the Tanium side of this, there's our alert query agent, which is the kind of core master agent for all intents and purposes. And then the orchestrator is going through saying, all right, I'm fetching alert information about the particular alert that was designated for the question with that GUID that we saw earlier. And then it's going to go ahead and say, like, all right, based on all this data that I've got, what skills should I use to analyze this data? Hard to read this, but you get the idea. And then going through, and one of the things we built into this was, Tanium, we kind of see ourselves as being specially different because we have access to pretty much any information you want to get from all of your managed devices in real time. We also have historical information as well, but the real-time nature of it is really kind of what sets us apart in most conversations. So we built in this capability using one of our kind of core security capabilities that's used across the platform itself, called Direct Connect, which makes like it sounds, a direct connection to an endpoint, assuming it's online, and being able to go through and query various things about the device and the system. So we already had all this information that was part of the alert itself. But then we also, and this is kind of really showcasing the power of the agent, want to say like, all right, we have all this information, and that's great. You can digest all of that and give me some information, some more pointed information about what this all means. But more critically, more importantly, hey, can you go out there and learn and get more information about this and figure out what else we should be doing? So this direct connection establishes that connection to the device itself and says, all right, based on what I see in this alert, I want to query, is that process still running? Or if it's not, I can go back to some of the historical information that we have access to on the device to say, give me the process tree associated with this, so I can start to chase things down related to, all right, how did this process spawn? Are there any child processes associated with it? What are those processes? What are the command lines of those processes? And it's going through and it's iterating, down the chain and saying like, all right, I'm not going to just say that everything that's in that alert is all that I need to know. Instead, I want to go and figure out, is there more information that I need? And the agent itself is going to be able to intelligently parse and learn from what we've already established as part of that initial incident and say, all right, that's great. But all right, if I have this particular problem, all right, figure out exactly what the source of it is. How did it initiate on the endpoint itself? Do I have evidence of this anywhere else in my environment? So if I'm looking at like a supply chain attack, can I go out there using Tanium and say like, hey, does anybody else have this particular, we observed this strange behavior. Does anybody else have this particular file hash sitting on their disk that may not have, been used for anything quite yet, but represents a device that might be compromised in some way, shape, or form? And so this is the idea, is that not only is it doing that, kind of driving a lot of efficiency in the analysis of the alert, but then really kind of going out there and saying, all right, based on what we see here, yeah, this is probably a true positive event. Not only that, is it anywhere else in the environment that somehow eluded detection? Am I seeing any other indicators of compromise that I want to kind of query the environment for? So that's what it kind of really revolves around, is just that analysis, and then taking it a step further than just giving us back the information based on what it was fed.
So it seems like this agent has two particular skill sets. It's an incident responder, it's an incident investigator and a threat hunter. Being able to do it seems very interesting. Are you, and if you can answer this question, that's fine. Are you solely using the information in the client's environment about the nuances of their environment, or is your product referencing something that may not be in the customer's environment as a reference point for doing these type of things? And I asked this question because I took some security courses that leverages several tools about doing IR or IA. So is it solely the information being referenced in the customer environment, or do you, as part of your solution, you bring on additional data of reference?
So today it is going to be exclusively, the way the agent works at this moment in time. It's only going to be using customer specific information. I think there are a lot of things that we're doing across the entirety of the Tanium platform that are designed to take all the information about the customers that we have in a very secure, private way, to see, what other kind of things we can find about how things are going across the board, using, kind of what we're using that for today is what we call part of our autonomous endpoint management capability, is like looking at patch deployments and software updates and saying like, all right, there's a new version of this application out. How are customers running into any problems when they update to the latest version, whether it's performance related or crashes, things like that. So I think across the board, using those types of capabilities to gather telemetry across all of our customer base or for external sources to be able to enrich this process, that's definitely something that we want to bring to the table.
Very cool. Yeah, that would be awesome, because you have all that data, right? That's super valuable data. I think watching what you showed us, what you talked about, I think one of the first things that come to my mind, because again, we're talking about Copilots, or we're talking about things that augment our existing processes. How did you do this before without an agent? Or did you do this? Does this replace something? And potentially, how much time does this save by doing it this way?
I think generally speaking, it's going to be replacing, person hours, labor, so the ability to take those SOC analysts to be able to say like, all right, if they're overwhelmed based on the sheer number of alerts that they've got and the level of expertise that they have in triaging those alerts, then this is going to allow them to really ramp up. So make them much more efficient, make sure they're spending time on things that need the time and need the attention, and allowing them to consume and triage more alerts per minute, per hour, per day, so that they can ensure that they're not hitting that alert fatigue that we typically see with a lot of larger customers and larger environments where they just have so much stuff that they're trying to pour through on a daily basis that occasionally something might fall through the cracks that represents a real a significant issue, a potential breach, something like that. Your EDR is going to protect you from a lot, but it's not going to protect you from everything. And so having this defense in depth, multi-layered security approach, helping, from an AI driven a way to kind of amplify the power of not just your people, but your tools as well. That's the kind of, I think the vision that we had.
Yeah. Reminds me of, I don't know why, reminds me of the Bat Computer, the old 60s Batman TV show where he would type a few characters and then get this little card that comes out.
The Bat Computer.
Yeah.
The Bat Pewter. You're right. So let me ask another question. Let's jump away from the agents. Let's look at what the potential of this thing does. And if you guys already have this service at Tanium, Shannon, if you're not knowing, being a fan of your company for years, it seems as though with this right here, this is another business venture for that. Because think about the companies that come in and do post-breach incident response. Think about being able to drop Tanium on these devices, and I know you guys can blow out your agent really quickly. I've seen it in advance. And then this agent, and then be able to come in and do some type of incident analysis and investigative analysis. Was that a consideration for creating this? Has Tanium thought about, hey, instead of running the Mandiant, instead of running the Microsoft, whatever they call Dart right now, call us and drop this down on here. And then we'll run through this and come back and give you a feedback, because as one of my forensics mentors who sit on this call, Frank, said, hackers always say, if you got one entry point, you have 0. If you have 2, you have 1. So how do you go about, is that something you guys consider in this that you do?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything with that. So we have, traditionally, in our early days of the company, I think we would just kind of, if an existing customer or somebody who, we wanted to help, approached us with that kind of an issue, like we have an incident, we need some help, we just jump in and do it with our own internal resources. I think since we've matured more as an organization, we work much more with our partner community, and there's a lot of different channel folks we work with that use Tanium as a tool for investigation and response and that sort of thing. We also are introducing our own service that is designed to help Tanium customers, work with Tanium technologies exclusively, called Hunt IQ, that we're just kind of launching kind of in this moment, that is designed to be that much more kind of a managed service associated with this type of thing.
Okay. Rick, I knew smart people that had to do something with this. I'm like, oh my God, I can drop this down on here and be able to run through this. And now you can just absolutely unnerve a negative security actor, because if they've circumvented CrowdStrike, MDE, Carbon Black, they're not used to this next thing that's dropping down on them, seeing it now, right? Now they have to change their tactics and evasion processes to be able to do it. Very cool. Makes sense. That's a look right there. I only saw one agent. Is that it? Is it that?
For the moment, yeah. I mean, I think we wanted to be able to deliver something that kind of was the original ask from the Security Copilot team. Like, hey, can you guys build an agent that we can showcase? And so we did, jumped right in and got that done. And I think we want to do more. This is just our initial foray into this experience. But I think as we see kind of the adoption and the success of Security Copilot and the agent continue to, go up and to the right, then we want to do more with this, whether it be within Security Copilot or independently within the Tanium platform itself.
Well, and I think that, our partnership, I think our listeners are always interested in how your partnership with us, it seems like, Mike, you and I travel in the same circles. We started with Sentinel, then we went to security, the plugins for Tanium, and now we're at the agent level. What are you guys going to do going forward, and how does what's the idea behind it? But I mean, from a partnership perspective, how does this partnership help you? How does this agent help Tanium? Because I think a lot of partners, sometimes they think about that investment and becoming a Microsoft partner, and they're a little tentative or hesitant because they think, oh, Microsoft, they're so big and they're competitive in so many areas. But quite honestly, I think our partner program is probably one of the best. So how does that work for Tanium?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different layers to it. Like you said, there's a lot of kind of co-opetition that happens with Microsoft just based on the sheer amount of capability you offer customers. But the fact of the matter is we have our own singular focus on, endpoints and the ability to do that kind of real-time stuff that the customers have always valued us for. Every Tanium customer is a Microsoft customer. And we also know that complexity kills, and customers want their tools to work effectively together. It's, a lot of folks invested in best of breed solutions over the years. So you got 15 different things that are great at what they do, but don't necessarily talk to each other. And so it's up to them to stitch it all together in a way that's most efficient. I think the vision that we have is honestly sort of similar to Microsoft in that you can simplify your environment in a lot of ways by consolidating on a single vendor or a couple of trusted vendors. And so if we make sure that our solutions interoperate effectively with Defender, with Sentinel, with Security Copilot and more, then they're deriving the benefits of, the stuff that we focus on that we do really well, but also making the most of their investments in the Microsoft portfolio as well. And there's something to be said, I think, for having multiple trusted parties that you rely upon. Having from a kind of high level standpoint, there's the whole concept of all your eggs in one basket. And, I'm sure there are lots of arguments about whether that is or isn't a good thing. But I think in our world, if you can do it, having more than one tool to rely upon is probably a good thing. And so we want to make sure that's a smooth experience for everybody, and then it enriches the value across both different types of platforms, and it's not just about us. It's not just about Microsoft. It's about customers getting the value out of everything they're using and have as much capability as they can to see, detect, respond in the security world.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece. Yeah. Go ahead, then.
Yeah, the eggs in one basket, we can leave that analogy alone. Let's go with, tool belts, right? The problem is not having too many tools in your tool belt. It's the problem that when customers go buy too many tool belts. Now you have 6 tool belts with 90 tools in it, right? And so somebody said it whenever returns his calls. I do. Yeah, you have to choose the right tools in your tool belt to be able to do it, right? So I'm a fan of, consolidate when you can, and make sure that when you go out and buy that specialty tool, it's a specialty tool to be able to get something really, really done, right? Because Microsoft is large and it's deep in certain areas, but a lot of the tools and processes, not tools and processes, the tools and offerings that we have can be very shallow at some points, and that's partner opportunity. If I'm a partner and Microsoft is this wave and it's super deep right here, I don't want to enter that market. I want to get to the market where it's shallow. That's where they decided either they didn't have the gump to do it or the tech to do it, and Tanium fit that very nicely. So, but this stuff, I'm super interested in that help response thing that you do for your customers. I'm actually going to do a little bit of research on it because it helps me solve a problem with a customer that asked about something like that. That's very good to know. Shame with me.
Yeah, I would say in my experience, I very rarely do I come across a customer that is 100% a Microsoft only shop. They're almost every single customer has some other product and tool. So what you said, Mike, it's definitely a big deal for our customers, and for Microsoft to play nice and have that ecosystem where companies can work with us. So I think it's smart.
Yeah. You know what I think's funny? I was just thinking about it. I should have mentioned something earlier on, but Rick, you mentioned Copilot, another partner who has produced a plugin that literally connects your Security Copilot to CrowdStrike. Doesn't CrowdStrike have their own AI? Called Charlotte?
They do.
Yeah, Charlotte AI. But ironically, they don't want to play nice with a lot of other folks. I think it's Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, and a few others have came together for a few different things, but they're just like, no, we're doing our own thing. Good for them.
Well, that's fine. I mean, it's interesting to me that Microsoft has customers that we want to be able to connect to CrowdStrike with Security Copilot. So we need this plugin. I don't know. There's more to that. I guess I could, well, that's for another day. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mike, so much for being on. Thank you for showing us this agent. I truly appreciate that. I'm super interested in how this is all gonna happen. It just seems like it's every time we talk about a new something, how this has evolved, you can't talk about it with saying, well, it's early days, because it still is early days. We have no idea what the next 6 months, what it's going to look like 6 months from now. These agents, I don't know, could replace me on the show.
I'm trying. Believe me, I'm trying. Right all the time. I'm signing up for every AI agent, like replace Rod. And they're like, Rod is an agent. Try something else.
I think it's important. I think it's important to attend build and watch. Well, not attend, but watch build everything that they're doing, even if it's not Security Copilot, but everything that they're doing around agents. You need to watch that at build, so you understand the architecture that's coming to Security Copilot.
That's a good point. Not be so myopic that you believe that the agentic AI or AI period is only around security. And it's the way as people who use it for collaboration think it's all about collaboration. If you don't understand the foundational makeup of what AI, let's just say Copilot, let's be very pointed, then you miss the whole picture, right? That's the thing, because you could build security products. We've seen it in action. We had a guest on the show that's just with the AI Foundry and built basically a poor man's Security Copilot. Did it, right?
Yep.
So we need to really understand the basics and the foundational people, and that way you're able to discern what is marketing and what is real, right? The fluff.
I mean, Microsoft's going to use their own services to build Security Copilot, so that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, but if you can understand the basis, you can do it.
Yeah, but even not Security Copilot, but Copilot Studio, for example, it's in our modern work stack, and it does connect to Security Copilot. But to your point, you have to understand how to build these things from an architectural standpoint, the prompt engineering, the information gathering, what to do when you have data. Like there's a lot of prompt engineering that goes into it. People don't think like that in terms of communication. They just say, I want this, but in their head, they have an idea on what this means. And when you're talking or building these agents, you need to be very prescriptive on what those instructions are. And it takes time, but people will figure it out.
Yeah. And you have to find the right people. I think a lot of folks at these companies haven't really found the champion, right? Once people find the champion, they will understand what to insert that particular thing, because you're saying a lot of people say, well, I'm on the identity team, let the SOC people handle it. And the SOC people are like, well, I'm busy, let the end people handle it. Like, who wants to run the AI initiative around it, right?
Yeah.
So now you're starting to see companies hire chief AI officers to be able to come in and understand this. And it's more to not so much, understanding the technology, but being able to disseminate the fluff and the shiny from the real. And got to get the foundation. Try to learn the spot product. You find yourself backtracking. So,
maybe AI is the answer to you not returning people's calls. Just need an Edward bot, and we're good to go.
Actually, I'm getting better. I think there's something AI tool I can use, Superhuman, for my email and all this other stuff. Yeah, I'll do that and do that. And I do return your phone calls, frankly. You're not returning my calls or answering calls when I'm up. That's the thing. So, running joke for the new listeners out here. We get ready to show something else. Who's showcasing?
Oh, I was just there's if you have access to the agents, let me see if it'll go back here. Stop sharing. No, view StreamYard. We have an agent workshop that's coming. It's not as fancy as what Mike was showing, but you will be able to create your own eventually. And what Frank was talking about at Build this year, we will be announcing some frameworks around that, I think. So definitely watch Build for that info, because that will go beyond that framework that we have.
And Rod, you'll be a Build, right?
I don't know. Yes or no. I don't know. It's like a coin toss these days. I will at least have one of my teammates there. So.
Oh, all right. Well, this has been super interesting, Mike. As always, Tanium brings the fire, brings the good stuff, and thank you for once again, honoring us on our partner month, even though we moved the month on you to get it right. We had everything that you talked about in our show notes for anybody that's interested. Please go out, take a look at the Tanium site, see all the good things that they're doing around that. Like as Mike said, Tanium has been one of the foremost design partners in Microsoft in the early days of Security Copilot. So if anybody has a bunch of knowledge share and thought leadership around this, Tanium is the place to go. So with that being said, everyone, we're going to go ahead and conclude our second episode of Partner Month. Thank you so much to Tanium for coming on. Mike, this is your third time. I think if you come on one more time, you set the record for partners coming on, if you don't already own it. And anytime you're welcome to come on, any innovations or any updates, just let us know. It doesn't have to be Partner Month. We're glad to have you on. To everyone, we'll be back. We'll be back next week. Let me look at my calendar behind my back. Yep. And then May 26th is an American holiday. It is Memorial Day. We will not have an episode on Monday, May 26th. We, however, will have a special episode on May 29th, which is a Thursday. So no show on May 26th. We'll talk about it again next week, but we will have a show that week, May 29th. And that show will conclude Partner Month, talking about AI and security with our partners in the Microsoft ecosystem. With that being said, that's it.
Base.